Welcome everybody to the NEMA Quarterly Forum for the third quarter of 2025. We will give a couple of more minutes before we start, just to allow those joining a little bit late. And then the next voice you will hear will be NEMA Chair Anne Kemp. Welcome you to the call. Okay, we're up to about 35 on the call. Anne, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So welcome everybody. Thank you ever so much for joining us today on our third quarter forum. It's really good to see you all. Very much appreciate you giving the time. So we're going to spend an hour briefing yourselves on key activities around NEMA, and there'll be Q&A after each of the major items. It is being recorded and we will be sharing the slides after the meeting. Please do ask questions via chat. I see, Richard, you've already challenged us because you've spotted you put GMT rather than BST. That is my bad. I copied that slide from the March one where it was still GMT, so I fess up immediately. But if you do also want to raise any other business, please do put that in the chat as well. So if I press on, we've got quite a lot that we want to cover today. So on the agenda, I'll just spend a few minutes giving you a very brief update on what we've been doing at NEMA, but then allow for going into more detail around membership with Mustafa. We want to brief you a little bit on the initiative, on the Information Management Initiative. That will be myself and Emma. Emma, as Vice Chair of buildingSMART UK and Ireland chapter, will then give you an update on all of the activities going on there. And then finally, certainly last but not least, we want to put a spotlight on the virtual conference, which Fiona, who is handling that in such an able manner, along with Baron, will give you some highlights there. We'll finish off with some AOB. I think, Paul, you'll probably be managing that through. But yeah, we will pick up any other business you want to raise within the chat. So, a brief update since the last quarterly forum in March, which was in GMT and not BST. I'm delighted to say we've been joined by 6 new vice chairs. It just shows how much work is done by all of these volunteers. But if I could welcome Dave Peacock, who's Vice Chair for Volunteers, Baron Soni, who's Vice Chair for Stakeholder Engagement, Mustafa El-Ishmawi, who is Vice Chair for Members, Paul Waddy, Vice Chair for Education and Upskilling, and then we have 2 valued Vice Chairs who essentially float moving to wherever the need is greatest. So for the moment, John Hall is supporting Sam Hardy in operations, and Stephen Holmes is supporting on the patron side of things. So thank you ever so much for joining. And then I'm delighted to say that Ant Bird is just joining us with our first meeting of the non-executive directors next week. We've also moved into phase 2 of the IM initiative. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because we'll spend a bit of time exploring that in a few minutes. But I think the key thing to really emphasise that's happened since March is that we rebranded the UK BIM framework to the IMI framework. Obviously, there's been a lot going on from the point of view of social media, the communication side of things and events. But I think the key one is that a lot of people were attending Digital Construction Week in June 2025. I really hope that you enjoyed meeting the team. I apologise that I wasn't there. But the other mammoth task, I have to say, and Fiona leads on, is preparing for the virtual conference, which we are getting really excited about now, which will be on the 6th of November 2025. As I say, Fiona will take you through some detail on that in a little bit. And then I did just touch on my absence, so I think some of you may have been missing me in action. I was walking 1,365 miles from Land's End to John O'Groats over 100 odd days, raising nearly 20k for Alzheimer's Society. And I just wanted the opportunity to say a massive thanks to everyone who sent such encouraging words to me and who donated as well. And I have to say, the scenery was gobsmacking. It was just extraordinary. I feel very fortunate. But without any further ado, I would really like to hand over now to Mustafa, who will be briefing you on our members' activities. And Mustafa, it's such a pleasure to have you joining us on the team. Thanks very much.
Thanks, and let me quickly share my screen. Okay, so today I'll just give some update on the membership. I'm Mustafa Al-Ashmawi, nima Vice Chair for members, and I just joined a couple of months ago, but the membership has started maybe in May. Being an NIMA member means that you support NIMA's initiatives, you help us in growing the information management practices across the built and managed environments. So we as NIMA, we have some goals to upskill people in information management, to recognize the whole life purpose of information and data. And since the initiation of the NIMA membership, we had many members, not only from the UK, but globally. And the base of our membership is growing quickly. So wanted to advise everyone attending, if you are not currently an NIMA member, you can join us as an NIMA member. You can scan this QR code to visit the website and know more detail. In principle, our membership have some benefits. So in addition to being a supporter to NIMA and recognized as a supporter to NIMA through our badges, you will have access to our polls, and these polls gives you the opportunity to influence our NIMA policies or initiatives. So it's member-only polls, and I'll also speak about it later on in these slides. Part of the benefits also is access to exclusive events where you will be invited to member-only online events twice a year. There is also something in development as of now, which is the discussion forums. This is a member-only online discussion forum where you will be able to communicate and connect with like-minded people, very interested in the information management, and there you can build your relations within that realm. There is also opportunities to influence NIMA event content and also receive our monthly newsletter. It's important to note that this membership offering is developing it's still young and will keep developing through the years. We have lots of ambitions, lots of other benefits we are studying as of now to include in this offering. So keep following us to know more whenever these benefits or any changes has occurred. In addition to the standard membership here, we just released a bulk membership option. We noticed that there are organizations or teams that would like to have multiple number of memberships to their individuals. And for that, we decided to provide some discounts for these bulk membership options. This will be 5% and 10% depending on the amount of members. We released this initially to support teams, to support asset management teams, for example, organizations seeking to support their teams, or companies want to support NIMA's best practices. So how it works, someone representing this organization or team or even group of individuals, someone representing them go and do the purchase, and for 25 memberships or more, they get a 10% discount. Between 5 and 24 membership, they get 5% discount. And then these memberships can be distributed to their individuals that will get the same access like the normal individual membership. If you are interested in this for your team or your organization, please reach out either to me or through NIMA's official channels. We will get you through the process, and very soon it will be available on our website, similar to the individual membership. One more thing we wanted to cover today is member-only polls. So our last member-only poll was focused on NIMA's strategic priorities, and we received some good feedback from our members. It will help us in aligning our priorities going forward. So we received some important feedback on the working with industry bodies to improve information management practices, working on upskilling the sector generally in information management. So this kind of polls will have a huge impact on our way forward. And our next poll will be issued very soon. So keep following up to get it once it's released. Finally, just a brief of the activities that's in progress. As I mentioned earlier in these slides, the discounted bulk membership option will be available on our main website very soon. The next member-only poll is upcoming soon, and the members-only online discussion forum, the solution is under development with release date, hopefully end of this year. Some potential activities we are currently discussing. Hopefully it can be implemented into our benefits soon. We are looking into some additional benefits to our members, and also we are discussing a new membership type for students to support people who are currently enrolled into educational organization to get a discounted type of membership. That was all from my side. I'm not sure, Paul, if we will take questions now or later on.
We are suggesting that if anybody has questions on membership, they raise them through the chat function now. I haven't seen anything entered into the chat function during your presentation, Mustafa, so but we'll give it a few seconds just in case somebody starts frantically typing. Otherwise, then I think we're ready the next presenter to speak. Okay, nothing coming through. But if something does occur, we will have some time at the end for any final questions and wrap up on members if required. So now I'm going to hand back to Anne and to Emma to talk about the Information Management Initiative.
Oh, thanks very much, Paul. That's great. Yes, so there's been a lot going on with the Information Management Initiative. The virtual conference is going to be focused on the Information Management Initiative, so I don't want to steal the thunder of the conference in that sense. So I'll be giving you a bit of a summary on what's going on with the initiative. I know that we did an overview of the process behind the initiative of moving organisations through once they've signed up. So I don't want to repeat that here. What I wanted to update you on is what we're doing in moving to the second phase of the initiative. First phase was all about the setup, thinking about what the process would be, as I say, for getting organisations to respond to a call for action, to commit to improving their information management, and for us to be able to take them through how to do that. So to develop policies and processes which are relevant to their organisation, be able to develop that and then to implement it as well. In this second phase, we want to turn that all into practice. And of course, that's not a trivial undertaking. The first thing we wanted to do was to strengthen the steering group, allow for the steering group to help us gain gravitas of the initiative, for it to have greater exposure, for us to be getting more and more support from government, and for government to take us under their wing. So that is underway at the moment. We're also developing an elevator pitch, and clearly what is such a challenge is that you can't have one elevator pitch. It has to be customised for the different stakeholder group. But even that's not enough. It has to be that you need to know the individual, what makes them tick, what their concerns are. So I am going to show you the elevator pitch in a moment that we've got, which is the generic one. And what I'd be saying to you is, please do reach out if you feel that you could help us in customising that elevator pitch for different stakeholders. We would really appreciate your help. We're developing what we're calling the IM Essentials. So one of the feedbacks we've had is that when we're getting organisations to sign up, and we're asking the C-suite to actually sign up, when we say that we've got high-level principles, that doesn't really mean anything to them. But actually what brings that alive to them is if we call it the IM Essentials. Now, I know that sounds quite basic. It sounds like it's just a label. But actually that really seems to be helping them in thinking of it being equivalent to, for instance, the cyber essentials. So high level, but then we are looking at actually how we could bring more depth to that, similar to the cyber essentials. As I've touched on, we are also developing then a step-by-step guide to how organisations can develop what we have been referring to as an internal mandate. So we're developing that at the moment. That's going to be presented to our signatories. We've got a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks where we also show them this IM Essentials and a very simple slide set, which can be developed as that high-level training and familiarity that organisations can use to brief their employees. We're also working and really striving to build out our sponsors, our supporters, and our signatories. And I can't emphasise that too much, is that with nima and with the IM initiative, this is all being done largely voluntarily. We're utterly dependent on our valued nima patrons, but also on those organisations who are coming forward to be IMI sponsors. So the sponsors are who contribute financially, supporters those organisations who are contributing resource. We've then got the IMI projects, which Emma will be talking through in just a minute. But as I say, what I wanted to do is just take you through the bare bones elevator pitch. This is not spruced up. Don't get excited. There isn't any graphics. It's just text at the moment. But it's really trying to work out what are we trying to say within this elevator pitch, and how do we then customize that for a particular one. So hold on to your seats. Please don't over criticize that it's too generic, because we know that. What we want to know is how would you customize this for yourselves? So I'll pause every so often to ask you a question. So the overview, far too many slides on this, so very aware of that, but just that, what is it? The IMI, led by nima in partnership with the CLC. I did say that we're strengthening the governance of the steering group, so we will be bringing others in. I'm really delighted that Graham Watts is going to be joining, representing CIC. We really want to be bringing in some of the government departments onto this as well, private clients. But again, if you feel that you know anybody who could be coming on board with the steering group, we'd love to know. It is primarily a national programme designed to transform how the UK built environment sector manages information. But I must say it is being picked up by international organisations as well. It's building on the UK's leadership in building information modelling, and it's aiming to embed structured, secure, interoperable data practices across the life cycle of built and natural assets. But the challenge, the construction sector is generating huge amounts of data, as we all know. But the sad truth of it is that 95% is unused. And it's leading to inefficiencies, increased costs, safety risks, and missed opportunities for innovation. And I know a lot of people on the call just feel this isn't good enough, and why you're so passionate and help us moving forward. But as the industry faces growing demand for sustainability, digital transformation, and regulatory compliance, the need for better information management has never been more urgent. But how do we get that message across that it's fundamental to supporting all of those growing demands? So what the IMI is offering, clear phased framework for organisations to adopt consistent standards-based information practices, particularly at the moment based on ISO 19650. Upskilling teams in digital and data capabilities, establishing the governance for trustworthy, secure data, and aligning with national strategies for net zero safety and productivity. So why should your organisation adopt the IMI? Is it to boost productivity, reducing time? Is it to enhance asset value? Is it to mitigate risk, gain competitive edge, or to empower your people? What of those benefits would be appealing to you, or you would want to sell if you were giving that elevator pitch? So what I would be challenging you to think is, how would you pitch that? What would you be saying is the reason why we're doing this, and why specifically an organisation should adopt the IMI? So that's the IMI overview. Next steps, what we're doing is to encourage organisations to sign up, to respond to the call for action, and that's essentially signing up to those IMI essentials. Develop and then start to implement an internal information management mandate, and as I say, we'll be meeting with the signatories in a couple of weeks to show them what those step-to-step processes can be to get to that point. Encouraging them to utilise sector-wide guidance, so based on the existing IMI framework, and certainly to consider becoming a supporter, either offering in-kind resources or becoming a sponsor and being able to support that financially. Okay, so I think that I can hand over to Emma, but Tom, yeah, thank you ever so much. Focus on saving time and money, and then talk about improving quality. So I wonder whether that will appeal to everybody. Martin, thank you. You're agreeing with Tom. Develop real business cases to support the need. One of the things that you'll hear about at the conference is that we are looking at a framework, a maturity framework, which allows organizations to identify the why. So what they need to what are the outcomes they're trying to get to? What are the benefits? What are the risks they're trying to avoid? And that actually will then guide them into how they start implementing the framework and develop a mandate which is specific to them. Okay, there's quite a few comments which are sort of comments rather than questions. So absolutely, we do feel that not only AI, but digital twins, a lot of these other things, you know, in itself, is that they need that structured data to unlock the full potential and future usability. So certainly for AI, but that applies to digital twins as well, doesn't it? And I think that just illustrates, just with what's come through now, is that we really have to be thinking about what the priorities of the different stakeholders are. So there is plenty of work going on in the background, but as I say, if there's anything that you can contribute going forward, that would be great. But now I think I should stop, and I should hand over to Emma to talk you through the IMI project and then all of the activities around Building Smart UK and the Ireland chapter. So Emma, thanks ever so much. Over to you.
Thanks, Anne. Okay, so the IMI projects. So like Anna's just explained, we've got the Information Management Initiative, which is about uniting organisations around common principles and rules. And then we've also got a lot of the standards work that's been happening over the past few years in redefining, connecting and providing guidance. But what we want to look at as well is that next layer. So we really need tools and mechanisms to allow us to implement the IMI principles and rules across the sector in a consistent way by providing a starting point.
Emma, we've lost you. You've gone on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
So in terms of the standards work, there's been lots of work in terms of trying to join it up. And to do this, it's very much started in that sort of organisational level in terms of developing an information management ecosystem, because it's the organisations that work within the ecosystem. And then it's about addressing the real foundations of information management, really looking at information science and really looking at the syntax and semantics around information, because for a long time, this has just been left to develop ad hoc, and it's a bit of a mishmash at the moment without being properly coordinated. And when we start to think about AI and all of that, you know, this is what grounds AI, and this is what creates more accurate answers. Then we've got the context, so we need the real life situations to feed into this. And then we start to go into the process side, where we start with information purpose, so business need that we've talked about, which feeds in then to the information specification. And it's the information purpose and information specification which helps to reduce that 95% of unused data. It makes it more usable, because then that informs what we then actually deliver in terms of information and data in the form of information models. And then in terms of information specification, that might provide the information questions, but then we need the answers through the manufacturer's data, which actually provides the data in those information models. So this creates like a really high level information management ecosystem. So started with that and then thought, well, what can we do in terms of actually building the tools and the mechanisms around this? And this has led us to these IMI projects. Now, we did start to present these at Digital Construction Week, but since then we've redefined them and refined them a bit more, and we've got it down to these 6 core ones. There is other work as well, not just this, but as we're getting deeper into the scopes of these 6 projects, there might be a few more tweaks in terms of what we call them and how they connect. But in terms of how that relates to the slide I've just shown, in terms of the ecosystem, this is where the projects start to tie in. So we've got the Maturity and Benefits Framework project, which really starts to address and support the organisations on their information management journey. We then have Project Indigo, which is a separate project to the IMI, but that will really look at the semantic side around the sector and provides the basis for that for our taxonomy builder, which looks at providing consistent terms across the industry. Then in terms of the context, we're looking at using insurance as our first use case, and that will then feed into the standard information approach, which really ties together the information purpose and the information specification side. And then obviously this then feeds into the information models, and in terms of the information models, we've worked a lot in terms of actually creating them, but there's been very little about in terms of how they're maintained. So how do we actually maintain an asset information model? And for this, we've got a project which really looks at the modelling side of that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then this on the this then is joined together by the National Reference Data Library, and we're still looking at which parts of these projects form that. And then the information modelling side is then very much fed by the manufacturers side of things. And again, this is a part of the IMI project, but there's the Manufacturers Information Hub, which is an initiative which is really bringing together the manufacturers sector. And as part of the IMI, we believe we need to work really closely with this initiative as well. So I'm just going to go through each of the IMI projects in a little bit more detail. So as Anne mentioned, we have the Maturity and Benefits Framework. So this is very much a 5-stage maturity model. So this is for organisations to understand where they sit in relation to information management. It helps them to identify a target level to incorporate into their internal organisational mandates. And it also sets out which parts of the IMI framework will need to be followed so that they continually improve. So this project is very much at the core of the IMI and is absolutely fundamental to it. And this is our first project to actually kick off. And the authoring group and the steering group have been assembled. We're hoping to actually get completion of this project by the end of the year. Then in terms of the technical projects, we have the standard information approach, which I've talked about, is very much about the methodology around the information purpose and the information specification, information requirement side, and really getting those to join up in a much more data-driven way. And also as part of that, we really need to identify and coordinate use cases across the industry, because at the moment they're being developed ad hoc across lots of different places, but they need to be coordinated and brought together so that they work together. Then I talked about the National Reference Data Library. So this, as I've said, is very much going to be a platform for hosting some of those IMI projects. At the very least, it's going to be the platform for the standard information approach. So bringing together the purpose and those information requirements to almost give like a marketplace for the industry as a go-to. So if you need information requirements for a particular use case, you can go there. So rather than starting from scratch and that blank sheet of paper, which is the most scary thing in the world, you've got a heads up there to start from. And then in terms of the model-based operations and maintenance projects, so this is very much about how we look at the asset information model, as I've said, but it's going to be focusing on the update of the asset information model. So it's going to be very much looking at it from an object-based approach with maintenance and operational trigger events. Now we want to really kickstart this project, and we've mapped out how we're going to do the test project. However, what we really need from industry is some data to do that. So what we really need is an IFC model of a facility with 1 year's worth of maintenance and operational records, and then we can start to test that. So if anybody's got anything out there, please let us know. The taxonomy builder, for me, this is one of the biggest issues we have with regards to information management, how we call stuff. You know, whether you are creating a procurement schedule, a design schedule, equipment schedule, or a list of assets to survey, we all call things in different ways, and this is causing massive problems across the industry. And we have things like, you know, we have classifications, we have taxonomies already, but you know, we believe we need to rethink what we're doing, because what's happening at the moment just isn't working. And for me, it's very much about grounding this in semantics, and that's what we need to really start to understand. So this is a really exciting project in the fact that, you know, this is completely a new way of thinking, and for me, it's going to hopefully address a lot of the problems that we've got in that foundational space. And then we've got the insurance project, which we've broken down into the use case in terms of what information requirements the insurance sector needs from assets, and that's across the whole asset life cycle, and also providing a consistent way that information can be exchanged. Now, the insurance project is actually part of a much wider insurance piece, but in terms of the IMI, we're just going to focus on the information requirements and the exchange piece. So in terms of IMI projects, like Anne mentioned, you know, we do need funding and we do need resource, because unfortunately we can't do it on our own. You know, I hate asking for money and I hate asking for help, but this is too big. So if you would like to fund any of this work, then please become an IMI sponsor. Or if you would like to give up time or knowledge to help with some of these projects, please sign up to become an IMI supporter. And we would really appreciate that, because when it comes to the IMI, you know, we all need to work together to create this ecosystem. So that's me on the IMI projects front, but you've got me again in terms of building smart UK and Ireland. So I'm just going to go through our updates on this. So I just wanted to start off with just saying really who Building Smart UK and Ireland are, because I think sometimes this gets lost in translation. So yes, we're the UK and Irish chapter of Building Smart International. So we help to develop and promote the Building Smart open standards and tools. You know, it's the home of interoperability across the sector. But in terms of Building Smart UK and Ireland, we're also powered by nima, which we think is a really powerful combination because it brings together, you know, that thinking around the data side, but also the process side, and you need both of those to do information management effectively. So we are part of nima. And in terms of the Bazooki projects, so we have our fire safety project, which is actually a great example of the collaboration between Building Smart UK and Ireland and the nima side. So what we're looking at is actually the key building data and the fiery information exchange. So we're looking at how we can actually relate that to IFC. So there's one consistent data schema throughout those. We are kickstarting the construction sequencing, or 4D project, off next week, and that is looking at the parts of the IFC schema that we can use for 4D. So this is going to bring in the process and task entities. We've got our IoT and smart buildings project, which is actually a project run at international level, but it's actually led by Building Smart UK and Ireland, where we're looking at integrating IFC models with the smart buildings ontologies, such as brick schema. As part of that project, we actually have a sub-project called the Building Device and Asset Naming Specification, which is looking at a consistent way of naming occurrences of objects or instances. There isn't anything in the industry at the moment, and that is made up completely in different ways on every single project. It's important on the construction side, but it's even more important when we go to the smart building side, because we need that consistent naming in terms of linking to sensors and the BMS and everything. But I'll talk a little bit more about that again in a minute. Then we have a project that's looking at the building services properties in the IFC schema, because they haven't been looked at for a long time. We're also looking at owner history. So there's an attribute within the IFC schema that actually sort of captures the information about the change of each object. And then we have the cost cost and quantity takeoff information delivery specification project, which is really looking at how we can use IFC and NRM together for cost and quantity takeoffs. I just wanted to draw people's attention to the resources page on the website, and especially the Kobe area, because we have a load of templates up there, and these are updated every 3 months when Uniclass is updated, so please go and check that out. And then we've got some events coming up. So on the 17th of September, we've got our regulatory domain community call. And at the end of September, we've got our technical domain community call. And as I've mentioned, the building device and asset naming specification, we're hoping to host a webinar around that within the next few months, so we can get some feedback from industry. And if anybody is interested about signing up to any of these calls, please go and fill in this form. I know I talk about this every time, but it's important because then we capture your details and then we can send out the invites to you. And just also on the international front, we've got the buildingSMART Autumn Summit coming up towards the end of the month, which is in Berlin. As I spoke about in the last forum, we also need some volunteers to help us on the committee. We've got these positions at the moment with regards to these domains, and we have some lead positions as well as technical positions as well. So if anybody, has got any experience in these domains and wants to help us, please, give us a shout at this email address. We did actually find someone last time to help us with the PCERT scheme, so we've put them in touch with Richard White, who leads that. So that was a real great help. So thank you for that. And with regards to the PCERT scheme, if you want to go and check that out and get foundational certificate, then please go and check that out as well. But from a Bazooka point of view, that's me done. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any questions in terms of the IMI or Bazooka.
No questions yet, Emma. Again, we will have hopefully a couple of minutes towards the end where people can ask any questions that occur to them since you spoke, Emma. Now I'd like to hand over to Fiona to introduce the virtual conference section of the forum.
Thank you very much, Paul. There is a question in the Q&A you might want to look at where somebody's offering some resource to the IMI. So I'll leave you to pick that up. We're really excited to say that the virtual conference is back. 6th of November, please put the date in your diary. If you go to the events page on the web page, you'll be able to sign up to attend. I just want to give you a bit of insight into it. So for those of you, hold on, trying to advance my slides. Here we go. For those of you who've been to our previous conferences, it's going to be a little different this time. We're using a completely different platform, and the platform's going to be much more interactive. Where previously you were able to engage with other people in our networking rooms, you're now going to be able to engage with other attendees throughout the conference. So it's going to be much more immersive. You will be there as an avatar. Those of you with VR headsets, get them at the ready and really get involved. So watch this space. We're really excited about it. And this platform will be available to NIMA for 6 months. So we'll be using it for other events as well. So following me introducing the conference, Farron's going to say a few words about networking, as well as our new vice chair for communities, networking, stakeholders, etc. So please go and have a look on the website. I just wanted to give you a bit of an insight as to what we're covering off. It won't surprise you that the main theme is the Information Management Initiative. We're going to have a main stage with 2 keynotes, 3 head-to-heads, and 6 panel sessions. And I'll just rattle through some of the panel sessions. If any of you have a particular interest in this, there is still time to get involved and reach out to us if you've got ideas or potential speakers, but we've nearly buttoned down all the speakers. So the first panel session will be Why Change? The Increasing Importance of Information Management. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So why is this topic so important? And as people have said in the chat, Yes, the new thing is AI. It's not just the new thing, it is the big thing. It's going to be transformative, but rubbish in, rubbish out. So basically, information management is foundational to quality outputs through many other initiatives. That's the exam question. Listen to the panel, they'll be enlightening us more on that topic. The second one is the drivers for change, change management. What makes people change? So this will come back to the elevator pitch. What is it we're trying to convince people of? How are we trying to convince them? And we're going to increasingly bring in that commercial angle. So it's back to the very point that was also made in the chat. You know, let's think about cost, the business case, rather than just selling something that seems softer to those people who are running businesses. Third one is how to achieve change. So we feel very much that nima is a space where we can demonstrate, not just talk strategically, but help everybody involved with nima, be they members or anyone. You know, there is no paywall for this information. And just to remind you that it's a free conference, which is a cost to nima, but at no cost to you. We will be sharing some of the pragmatic change that's happening, those who are actually implementing the IMI and how. We'll also be talking about one of the IMI projects and why we're planning a standard approach to the creation of accessible information. So not only will we talking generally about how people are implementing the IMI, but also diving into a bit more detail regarding one of the projects. Also, which has been mentioned already, something that really piques my interest is measuring change. This work should have started a long time ago. It has in pockets, but this is predicated on us putting together a standard way of measuring information maturity, so the whole industry can measure things in concert. And what we're measuring, what change do you make? What's the beneficial outcome? So we may bring into that other aspects of change you wouldn't imagine, like education. And on that topic, our final panel session will be on how we help educate people, because it's an important thing that has been neglected over time, and who should be educated first. So that's just a brief snapshot on what we'll be covering at the conference. Please attend. It's been very well intended in the past. It's not only been a shop window for what we're doing, but increasingly is going to be a way of connecting with people. And as I say, more from Baron in a minute. We can't run the conference without sponsorship. We can't do something with nothing. We really value our sponsors. We've got a number of sponsors already, but there's more that we need. Please scan that QR code if you're at all interested. And one of the things I haven't mentioned is the networking room. So those of you who've been to the conferences before, we're going to have avatars in rooms. It will simulate a real space much more than in the past. And in the past, we came up with the agenda and asked for sponsors. There's a real opportunity if your business can sponsor a networking room to set the agenda. So if your business has something that you would like to take to a conference and network with people on that topic, then please come to us with your ideas. I'm going to hand over to Baron now, and he's going to say a few more words about the networking opportunities that we offer through the conference. Baron?
Thank you, Fiona. Yeah, so as the Vice Chair for Communities and Stakeholder Engagement, my real focus around the conference is to make sure that the event feels quite accessible, welcoming and valuable. And that's from the moment people arrive. So that's one of the reasons why we're actually inviting volunteers to come and support the conference. And this isn't just like a behind the scenes role. It's actually a chance for you to be visible, to raise your profile, and also to take an active part in shaping how the experience will be for other people. The way I would look at it is just imagine being able to join a session where there is someone there to greet you, to help you connect with others, to help you chat with other people and ensure that your questions are being answered. It allows you to have like a small interaction, but also changes the way the event will feel. and it transforms what would be a passive conference into being something that people are really engaged with. So for me, volunteering and, you know, bringing on the volunteers is not only just yourselves giving back, but it's also you putting yourself in a position where you're going to be at the center of these conversations. And that's kind of where all these opportunities lie for networking. Next slide, please, Fiona. And I think where we start thinking about this, you know, it's about networking with purpose. So yes, we've got a really exciting part of the conference where we are looking at the speakers, but actually, as Fiona touched upon, we've also got the networking rooms. These aren't just breakout spaces; they're going to be themed environments where people can actually have meaningful conversations and they can join on matters that actually mean something to them. It's a place where we're going to be able to share challenges, swap solutions, spot collaborations that can continue long after the event. And that's kind of where there's an opportunity for organisations to come in as well. As Fiona touched upon, there is an opportunity for you to sponsor a networking room, choose a topic, host a discussion. But what that does is it gives you visibility as an organisation, but it also gives you influence and thought leadership. If, for example, your organisation specialising in digital transformation, you might host a room that is focused on how technology is going to improve project delivery. It may also focus on, say, how technology can improve building safety, if anybody's interested in building safety here. And it's really important that we start to bring those sponsorships into the room, because you're not just putting on a logo, you're creating a space and an environment where expertise can drive an agenda. And it's also where stakeholders, where volunteers, where people who are joining can actually gather naturally and actually discuss things all around your brand. For participants itself, it also means that you can get involved in targeted conversation, which I think is really important and really valuable when you look at these conferences. But it also allows you to see what organisations are pushing and leading on change, which I think is really important within our sector within the UK. And what that allows is for sponsors to actually be recognised as people who are trying to shape the dialogue, which I think is something that hasn't been pushed upon, and it's something that you actually have the opportunity now to do. Last slide, please. And finally, what I'd say where it comes to this event, it's actually about breaking down silos. Too often our knowledge sits in an isolation of some sorts in terms of we don't really share it. It's within an organisation, it's within one person, it's within a team. And what we want to do is change that. As NEMA, that's what we are about. It's about making information more open, encouraging people to have real dialogue, and creating a culture where knowledge can be shared, not stored. And this is where it's important. All of you have actually a role to play in this, whether you're going to be coming on as a volunteer, sponsoring a network room, being there to contribute in discussions. It's about empowering your voice. Your voice really matters. Engagement isn't about just being the loudest person in the room. It's about being able to bring perspective, your experience, and more importantly, your questions to the table. That's what's going to make these conversations richer when we come to these networking rooms, and I think that's what's going to give us stronger solutions going forward. If we can empower more voices, and that's one of the things we're really trying to push on in NEMA, so that people can be heard. What we do is we create outcomes that are actually more inclusive, more practical, and can actually have more of an impact in our industry. So my final message is going to be quite simple, really. Don't just get involved, volunteer your time, join conversations, get your organisation to sponsor a networking group, take a lead on shaping the dialogue. The more perspectives we can bring into this conference, the stronger the networks are that we're going to build, and the greater value everyone is going to actually get in taking part in the conference. It's an opportunity for us to be seen, to be heard, and really help the direction of discussion within our sector. So I really encourage everybody to make a note of the date and push on with this.
Brilliant, thanks, Baron. If you're interested, do look on the website. I'll just flash that QR code up again. There it is, clear on that screen. And there's always the option, if you want to reach out regarding anything, info@wearenima.im is your starting point if you want to contact us outside this forum.
Thank you, Fiona. We are coming rapidly to the end of the call. On the agenda that Anne flashed up at the very start, there was mention of the members' discussion boards. I think Mustafa talked about that several times, so I won't labour the point. It is something that you will see released over the next quarter. We also touched on volunteering more than once during the course of this afternoon's call. Those of you who've been keeping an eye on the website will have seen, I hope, a news item earlier this week about volunteering with NEMA. We are keen to have more people step up and support NEMA's activities. 95% of our activity is only possible because of volunteers. So the more people we can get on board, the better from the point of view of keeping NEMA going. But it also means that we are become a more diverse and inclusive organisation in helping people participate in our work. The only other thing I wanted briefly to touch upon, and I'm sure I'll then pass over to Anne for the last word, is brief mention of the longer term aspirations of ourselves as a membership organisation. We do aspire in the fullness of time to become a chartership organisation. So we are beginning to think about the activities that we need to undertake and the structural and governance challenges that we need to face in setting ourselves up to become a chartered organisation, whilst not underestimating the time and effort involved in doing so. But I want to hand back now to Anne just to bring the meeting to a close. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you very much, Paul. So thank you to everybody for attending. The conversation certainly shouldn't stop here. So do get in touch with us with any queries you have. I've put up a couple of emails in the addresses in the chat. So generally info@wearenima.im, as Fiona has pointed out. Specifically, I know Talib, you've been asking in the Q&A for volunteers. If you want to come forward as volunteers, do get in touch with Dave Peacock. The email again is in the chat. As far as the IMI is concerned, please do go onto our website where you can get your organisation to register either as a sponsor, if they can contribute financially, supporter, if you're offering, the organisation is offering resources, but really importantly to sign, to respond to the call of that call for action and sign up to the IM Essentials, and then progressing through in implementing better information management across the organisation. Thank you ever so much for attending. Thank you ever so much to the vice chairs and senior vice chairs. I don't know how we would survive without you, but also to the volunteers who are already in place. Do come forward as volunteers. There's so much for us to achieve. And yeah, if you can help us with bringing on board patrons for NEMA or sponsors for the IMI, we really do need that funding, as Emma put so well in her part of the presentation. Really look forward to seeing you all at the virtual conference. I'm sure that's going to be a really exciting, engaging event. Superb for the networkers, Baron, you've covered. And finally, please do feel really welcome to join as members. Mustafa is working very hard with the rest of the vice chairs, thinking about the benefits that can be offered. And there is that bulk membership available for organisations as well. So thank you ever so much, Paul. Thank you very much for setting this forum up, and we'll look forward to seeing you, as I say, the virtual conference on the 6th of November, and then the following forum, which we will announce on the NEMA website. Thank you very much. Take care all.
Are you stopping recording, Paul?